guys, I am Tilak. In this video we will see 5 interesting problems in definite integration. Let us see the first question. Integral 0 to pi by 4 greatest integer of sin x plus greatest integer of cos x plus greatest integer of tan x plus greatest integer of secant x. Now in this integral we can see that there are 4 greatest integer functions, and often people find problems involving greatest integer functions to be slightly tricky, which is not the case here. We can solve this problem using a simple property that you may have learnt in functions. That is, if x1 and x2 are two real numbers, then we know greatest integer of x1 plus x2 is not always equal to greatest integer of x1 plus greatest integer of x2. For instance, if you take x1 is equal to, let's say, 1.6 and x2 is equal to some 3.7, you will see that these two expressions will be unequal. But if one of these two is an integer, but let us say n is an integer, then in that case we can write greatest integer of x1 plus n as greatest integer of x1 plus greatest integer of n. Since n is an integer, greatest integer of n is equal to n itself. So we can write like this. Now this one we are going to use in the integral. Let us consider this part of the integral where we have greatest integer of tan x plus greatest integer of secant x. Right. Now this greatest integer of secant x is an integer value. Since this is an integer value, we can always pull this out of the greatest integer function, like what we have done for n here. So we can write this as greatest integer of tan x plus greatest integer of secant x. Okay, next let us consider from cos x. There is greatest integer of cos x plus greatest integer of tan x plus greatest integer of secant x. Now again tan x and secant x we can take outside, and this becomes greatest integer of cos x plus greatest integer of tan x plus greatest integer of secant x. So this way we can pull all the terms outside the greatest integer functions. Then the integral will finally become integral 0 to pi by 4 greatest integer of sin x plus greatest integer of cos x plus greatest integer of tan x plus greatest integer of secant x dx. Okay, now we are just one step away from the answer. What do we do here? We can see that when x belongs to 0 to pi by 4, sin x belongs to, what are the values sin x will take? 0 to 1 by root 2. So all the values that sin x takes when x takes values between 0 to pi by 4 are values which lie between 0 to 1. So we can say that greatest integer of sin x is equal to 0. Now when we take x belonging to 0 to pi by 4, the same interval, cos x will belong to 1 to 1 by root 2. So it's a value which is less than 1 and greater than 1 by root 2. So even in this case we can say that cos x lies between 0 to 1. So step of cos x is equal to 0. By the same logic you can see that even step of tan x will be equal to 0. Whereas if you take secant x, when x belongs to 0 to pi by 4, we can see that secant x belongs to 1 to root 2, which means it takes values which are greater than 1 but less than 1.4. So we can say that step of secant x will be equal to 1. So all these three terms will become 0 and the step of secant x will become 1. So the integral is effectively 0 to pi by 4 step of secant x, which is 1 dx. Okay, which when integrated we will get x between 0 to pi by 4, that is equal to pi by 4. As you can see, you can solve this problem in a very simple way if you are strong in functions and know these properties of greatest integer functions. Let us see the next question. Integral 0 to 2 pi e power cos theta into cos of sin theta d theta. Now here there is an exponential function and there is a trigonometric function. In fact, it is composition of two trigonometric functions. Now to solve this kind of integrals involving two dissimilar functions, one being trigonometric and one exponential, we generally use integration by parts, which in this case won't work if you see. And then or we can go for a substitution, but even that also does not work. I am happy if any of you can come up with a method other than what I am doing. Definitely there are many other methods, but of those methods which I am going to discuss is kind of the easiest. Now what we will do here is, we know that e power I theta is equal to cos theta plus I sin theta. So e power I sin theta we can write as, in place of theta we have sin theta, so cos of sin theta plus I sin of sin theta. Now here what is cos of sin theta? Since it is the real part of this e power I theta, we can write cos of sin theta is equal to real part of, I will represent that by RE, real part of e power I sin theta. This is what we are going to write in the integral. So we will write the integral as real part of integral 0 to 2 pi e power cos theta and then e power I sin theta d theta. Okay, so that is equal to real part of integral 0 to 2 pi. Now e power cos theta plus I sin theta d theta, that's equal to integral 0 to 2 pi. We know cos theta plus I sin theta is e power I theta. So you will get e power I theta d theta. There are two important steps when we are solving this problem. One is the step that we have written here, this one, and the second step is what we are going to write here. Okay, I missed RE. So how do we proceed from here? E power I theta. Now for that what we will do is, we will write the expansion for e power I theta. So we know that e power I theta is equal to, or in fact if we have to write for e power x, that is 1 plus x square by 2 factorial plus x cube by 3 factorial and so on, right? So if we have to write for e power I theta, what would that be? Now e power I theta is in place of x, so 1 plus e power I theta plus, now e power I theta whole square by 2 factorial plus e power I theta whole cube by 3 factorial plus and so on. So that is equal to, so e power I theta is equal to 1 plus e power I theta plus, this we can write as e power 2I theta by 2 factorial plus e power 3I theta by 3 factorial and so on. So now we will write the integral as real part of integral 0 to 2 pi. We will write this here, 1 plus e power I theta plus e power 2I theta by 2 factorial plus e power 3I theta by 3 factorial plus and so on. It's an infinite series d theta. So that is equal to real part of, now if you see, we can write this e power I theta as cos theta plus I sin theta plus e power 2I theta we can write as cos theta, so cos 2 theta here plus I sin 2 theta by 2 factorial plus cos 3 theta plus I sin 3 theta by 3 factorial and so on. Since we need to pick only the real part of this, we will write this as integral 0 to 2 pi. What is the real part? 1 plus cos theta plus cos 2 theta by 2 factorial plus cos 3 theta by 3 factorial and so on d theta. Now we will just integrate this. So when we integrate, what we will get? Theta plus sin theta plus sine 2 theta by 2 into 2 factorial plus sine 3 theta by 3 into 3 factorial and so on. We don't have to worry that it's an infinite series. We just have to trust that this will all work out between 0 to 2 pi. That is equal to, when you substitute 2 pi, what you will get? 2 pi plus sine theta, sine 2 theta and all of these terms will become 0 and then minus. Now we will substitute 0, so if all the terms will become 0 including theta. So that is equal to merely 2 pi. Let us see the next question. Integral 0 to sine square x sine inverse root t dt plus integral 0 to cos square x cos inverse root t dt. Let us say this is equal to I of x. In order to solve this problem, we will use Leibniz rule of differentiating under an integral. Let us quickly see what that is. If there is a function f of x defined as integral u of x to v of x g of t dt, then when we differentiate on both sides, we will get f of x, f dash of x is equal to, now when we are differentiating this with respect to x, then what we will get is g of, in place of t we need to write the upper limit of integration, that is v of x, into the derivative of upper limit of integration, which is v dash of x, minus the same thing with the lower limit of integration, so that is g of u of x into u dash of x. Now let us differentiate this. I dash of x is equal to, you will understand why I am actually differentiating this right away in a few minutes. Then first what we will get, sine inverse of, in place of t what we will get, root of sine square x. So root of sine square x I will write as sine x into the derivative of sine square x. The derivative of sine square x is 2 sine x cos x plus, now let us differentiate this, then what we will get, cos inverse root of cos square x, which is cos x, into derivative of cos square x, that would be 2 cos x, into derivative of cos x is minus sin x. So that is equal to sin inverse sin x is x into 2 sin x cos x now there is minus here, minus here again x into 2 sin x cos x. So that is equal to, both are equal, so 0. So we are getting I dash of x is equal to 0, which implies I of x is a constant. Since it's a constant, we can arbitrarily substitute any value of x and we will get the value of the integral that we have to determine. So what can we possibly substitute in place of x? There is no such restriction as to only these values must be substituted, but whatever makes it easier for us to evaluate the integral must be substituted. Now one of the easier ways to evaluate this integral is if we can combine these two terms, and when we would be able to combine these two integrals is if they have the same limits of integration. To make these integrals have the same limit of integration, I would substitute x is equal to pi by 4, because when you substitute x equal to pi by 4, then sin x and cos x are in fact sin square x and cos square x are equal and equal to 1 by 2. Okay, so we can now write this I of x, which is merely I, because it is not dependent on x. So we will get I is equal to integral 0 to 1 by 2, here also 0 to 1 by 2, so we will club this, sin inverse root t plus cos inverse root t dt. Okay, when you see this, immediately what should come to your mind is the property from inverse trigonometric function, which is sin inverse x plus cos inverse x is equal to pi by 2 when x lies between minus 1 to 1. So here you can see that x lies between 0 to 1 by 2, which is very well within minus 1 to 1. So we can write this as integral 0 to half, and what we will get here, this is pi by 2. So that is pi by 2 into t between 0 to half which will get us pi by 2 into half, that is equal to pi by 4. Now you understood why we have differentiated this. There are a few problems like this which if you use a traditional method, that is if you integrate and then substitute, it will become slightly complicated. So if you differentiate and see, you will get it to be 0, and in that case, since it's a constant, you can arbitrarily substitute any value of x, and that will give you the value of the integral. Next question, integral minus pi by 2 to pi by 2 pi power sin x by 1 plus pi power sin x. Now to solve this problem, first we will check if it is an even function or odd function, because whenever you see an integral of the form minus a to a f dx, then we need to see if it is an even function or odd function. So if it's an even function, then we can write this as 2 times integral 0 to a f of x dx, and if it is an odd function, this will be equal to 0. But if you check if it is an even function or odd function, you will find out that it is neither. So what do we do then? We can use this property that integral a to b f of x dx is equal to integral a to b f of a plus b minus x dx. This is an important property in definite integrals. So when we use that, let us call this as I. When we use that property, what do we get? Integral minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. Now a plus b minus x means we have a equal to minus pi by 2, b is equal to pi by 2. So a plus b minus x means what do we get? A plus b is 0. So when we are replacing x by a plus b minus x, we would have to replace x by minus x. So then what we will get? Pi power, and we should know that sin of minus x is minus sin x because it's an odd function. So you will get a pi power minus sin x by 1 plus pi power minus sin x dx. So pi power sin x we can write as 1 by pi power sin x. So we will get 1 by pi power sin x by 1 plus 1 by pi power sin x dx. Now we will take the LCM. So when we do that, what we will get? Minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. Pi power sin x in the numerator and denominator will get cancelled. So we will get 1 by pi power sin x plus 1. Okay, so this is I, and here this is also I, right? Let me call this as 1, this result as 2. Let us add 1 and 2. So 1 plus 2, what does it give? Gives I plus I, so 2i is equal to integral minus pi by 2 to pi by 2 pi power sin x by 1 plus pi power sin x plus, now this 1 by pi power sin x plus 1 dx, that is equal to minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. Now if we add, we will get 1 plus pi power sin x by 1 plus pi power sin x, which is 1 dx. So that is x between minus pi by 2 to pi by 2, which is equal to pi by 2 minus pi by 2, which is pi. So we are getting 2i is equal to pi, so we can say I is equal to pi by 2. Next question, if f of x is a continuous function such that f of x is greater than or equal to 0 for every x greater than or equal to 0, and f of x to the power 2014 is equal to 1 plus integral 0 to x f of t dt, then f of 2014 to the power 2013 is equal to dash. Actually we can see that this question was made in 2014 or 13, that is the hint they leave. Okay, now how do we solve this question? Now when we see integrals of this form where we cannot integrate it because we don't know what is f of x, we generally differentiate on both sides. So when we differentiate on both sides, we should use Newton-Leibniz here. First, when we differentiate the left hand side, what we will get? 2014 into f of x to the power 2013 into derivative of f of x, which is f dash of x, is equal to, here we have to substitute the upper limit of integration, so that is f of x into derivative of x is 1 minus f of 0, the lower limit of integration, into derivative of 0, which is a constant, is 0. So this term will simply vanish. So this is what we are getting. From here we need to determine what is f of 2014 to the power 2013. Now how do we do that? As you can see, there is f dash of x. We will integrate this to determine what is f of x. So before we integrate, we will bring this into a convenient form. We can write this f of x, if we bring to the left side, we will get f of x to the power 2012 into f dash of x is equal to 1 by 2014. So we will integrate on both sides with respect to x dx here. Then what we will get, this is f dash of x is there. Actually we should be able to integrate this directly, but if you don't know, then you can think of it like this. We will take f of x is equal to u, then f dash of x dx will become du. So this integral we can write as integral u power 2012 du is equal to, here if we integrate 1 by 2014 x. Okay, we can write this as u power 2013 by 2013. Since we know u is f of x, we will directly write f of x to the power 2013 by 2013 is equal to x by 2014. We should not forget plus c. Okay, now how do we determine the value of c? We can use the initial condition or some condition, that is, if you substitute x is equal to 0 here, what do we get? F of 0 to the power 2014 is equal to 1 plus integral 0 to 0 f of t dt. Right, when we see integral of the form a to a f of x dx, it's equal to 0. Right, which means we are getting f of 0 to the power 2014 is equal to 1, which means f of 0 can be either minus 1 or plus 1, but here it is given that for x equal to or greater than 0, f of x is greater than or equal to 0, which means we can say that f of 0 is equal to plus 1. Now we will substitute that here. So when we substitute x equal to 0, then f of 0 is equal to 1. So 1 by 2013 is equal to x is 0, right? So 0 by 2014, which is 0 plus c, which means c is equal to 1 by 2013. So we will replace this with 1 by 2013. Now what we need to determine here is f of 2014, right? Now we will substitute x is equal to 2014. Then what we will get? F of 2014 to the power 2013 is equal to, I am cross multiplying by 2013. So here 2013 into 2014 by 2014 plus 1. So that is equal to, these two will get cancelled, 2013 plus 1, which is equal to 2014.